Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Timmy Kemza James. So I can see all our new subscribers. You're all welcome to this video where I'm going to be showing you how to make a two-piece. So I'm using this really stretchy fabric. It's not so stretchy, that was exaggerated guys, so it's a little bit stretchy. So I'm going to be using the stretchy side to sit on my horizontal body. So for the two-piece, I'm starting off with the pants, that's the trouser side. So I'm going to be folding the fabric in half, and then the point where the fabric is cut out is where I'm going to be using, right? So what you want to do is to make sure you get like your lap measurement divided by 4 plus 8. That's the quantity of fabric that you're going to be needing. So by the time I got that, I folded it in half and I marked the length of the trouser, guys. So on the other side of the material, I marked the length of the trouser as well, and I'm going to be ruling that into a straight line. So when I'm done lining that into a straight line, so I know the chalk is not so clear, but if you pay close attention you would see. So now from the waist side, that line up there, or not even a line, the beginning side of the fabric is where I'm going to be using as my waist. So I'll mark my waist to my hip measurement, which is 9 inch, and then my waist to my crouch, which is 13 inches for me, and then the waist to my knee, which is 23 inches for me. So I'm going to go ahead and rule all my lines into straight lines like so, and then I'll make sure those lines are long enough for what I want to use them for. So the widest of them all is my lap measurement, which is 15 inches. So that's what I use there. Now on the crouch line, I marked half of my lap measurement, which is 15 inches. That's what I have there. Now on the hip line, I marked a quarter of my hip measurement. Now get it straight. On my crouch measurement, or my crouch line, I marked half of my lap measurement, and on my hip line I marked a quarter of my hip measurement. Then I went ahead to place my French cuff and gave it a nice cuff there. You can do this by freehand if you don't have a French cuff. Now whatever I have on my hip measurement is what I placed on my waistline, and I'm going ahead to mark that my hip measurement is what I'm going to be placing on my waistline as well. Now I'm coming back to do the waist properly, but for now that is what I'm working with, right? So by the time I'm done doing that, I'm going to measure my crouch line. Now for me it was 15 inches. Yours can be different, but for me it was 15 inches. So I'm going to find half of 15 inches, which is 7.5. Then on the knee line, I'm going to mark that 7.5 starting from the beginning of the fabric, and on the crouch line as well I'll mark the 7.5. Then also on the length or the hem of the fabric, I'm going to mark 7.5 again, and I'll connect that into a straight line together. What you want to get is a straight line from the crouch measurement at the middle till the hem of the pant. Now the reason why you need that line is because that is going to be the base for every pant leg you want, be it a palazzo pant, be it a straight pant, be it a bootcut pant. Any pant you want is from this line that you're going to get the perfect pants to sit properly on your leg. So by the time I was done drawing the line into a straight line like so, I just went further to complete my measurement, right? But first off, I'm going to do the waist first. Now for the waist, on the midpoint, that point where I marked my hip line, I'm going to measure my waist measurement backwards. Now my waist measurement is now coming backwards towards where the beginning of my fabric is, right? So where that beginning of my tape was, that is where I'm going to start measuring from, that hip line that I extended. So I'll mark my waist measurement and then I'll connect it to my hip line. Now I'm not going to be adding that, but had it been I was adding that, I would add my dart allowance, right? And then my sewing allowance. Now for the sewing allowance is going to be on the hip and the waist alone. For the crouch, you're not adding sewing allowance, right? But for this fabric, because it has a little bit of stretch, I'm not adding sewing allowance to this panel, just this panel, but I'm going to be adding it at the back. Now for the knee line, I just divided my knee measurement into 4, and I marked it on one side of that middle line that I drew and on the other side. So automatically is your knee measurement divided by 2, but you want to mark them from the midpoint, right? That straight line you drew from your crouch, that's where you want to mark it from. Then when I was done on the side, I connected my crouch measurement to my knee measurement, right, into a straight line on the outer leg. And then I went ahead to mark the hem of the pant. Now, depending on how wide you want, you can as well mark whatever you want to do. Mine, it was 10 inches, so I marked half of it. Mine was 20 inches the hem, but I marked half of it, which is 10 inches. That is 5 on both sides. So I went ahead to connect my trouser leg. Now for the inner thigh of my trouser, I'm using my French cuff to connect from my crouch point to the knee point that I have, and then from the knee point I'm going to be connecting to the hem of the dress. So it's a long line, so you need a long ruler, or if you feel you can eyeball it and get it straight, that's totally fine. But for me, I use ruler, and then I connect the outer pant as well, and then that will be it for our trousers. I know that these lines are not too clear because the fabric could not accept chalk properly. So if you have any questions, you can drop it in the comment section. I'm going to be there to answer you, I promise. I'm really sorry that the lines are not so clear, right? So by the time you're done doing this, I'm going to mark 1 inch from my waist downward, and then I'll connect that 1 inch point to the side seam of my waist. Now the reason is because you want your waist to sit nicely on your belly, right? So that's going to help your waist to sit nice and snug. And by the time I was done ruling that line, so the front side is going to be slanted inwards. That's what it means. So by the time I was done, I just went ahead. Now for myself, now pay close attention to this goes a long way to help you make pants for every body size, right? Now under my hip measurement, because I have a belly, then under my hip measurement I went up by 1 inch, then I came inwards by another 1 inch, then I went ahead to connect that 1 inch point to my crouch measurement. The reason is because if you have a belly, usually you would experience some kind of gathering around your tummy region. That's what you want to eradicate. So I connected it back to my initial waistline, so you would have sort of like a weird curve that goes inside before it comes out, but that's totally fine. Sorry about my lighting. I don't know what happened at this point really, so I'm sorry about that lighting. I'll try to fix it in my next video. So by the time I was done, I went ahead to cut out my pants starting from my waist. Now for the back side of the pants, I just laid it on a new folded fabric in half, and then I'm going to be marking 2 inch on the inner thigh side, right? But on the crouch line, I extended the crouch by 3 inches. So sorry, I lost one of the videos, so I don't know what happened. I lost one part of the video where I showed how I matched 3 inches on the crouch line, right? Then I connected the 3 inches using my French cuff as well to the knee side, where I added 2 inches. Now that 2 inches, okay, so this is the point. So I extended that crouch line by 3 inches, then I cuffed it into my knee line. Now I extended that 3 inches so that it can support my butt, and then I connected it using a cuff to my knee. Now by the time I was done doing that, on the crouch line I went down 0.6 inches downwards. Now that's going to allow ease on the back crouch, right? So you shouldn't forget to do that. Now you remember I took out 1 inch from the waistline of the front, so I'm going to be extending that 1 inch upwards on that center front. Because of the back, you want to your back has a rise, So I'm marking 2 inches upwards. That's from the 1 inch I added, I'm adding extra 2 inches again, or 1.5, depending on how your butt is. If you have a higher butt, go up to 2. You can even do 2.5. So I will now measure my waistline on the front. Whatever it is, I'm going to slant my tape from the side seam towards that center back on that 2 inches that I added, right? So I'm going to be connecting that. You can go ahead and rule it by freehand or with a ruler or anything. Rule it to that point. So it's going to be a slanted line. Now the front slanted downwards, this one is slanting upwards, right? So from that point of your waist or your center back, you're going to make a curve to this new crouch line that you have on the back. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not using my French curve because that French curve will not give you the perfect back. Just do that by freehand. Just eyeball it, something that your butt can sit inside of it, and that will be it, guys. So for my pants, I put all my sewing allowance at the back of my pants. Some people, they have different methods where they do this, but this is what I do. So when I'm done, I'll go ahead and cut my entire fabric, and by the time I'm done cutting it, I'll come back to do the blouse. So for the blouse, I'm just using what's left from the pants pattern to make the blouse. So I just folded it in half like this, as you can see, and I'm marking the length of my blouse. So I want it a little bit long, so I'm working with, I think I ended up working with 30 or so. So whatever you're most comfortable with, go ahead and use that. And if you've not seen my basic blouse tutorial, you can go ahead and watch that first, because I'll be linking it up here. Now when I marked the length of my blouse, I'm just going further to mark my armhole, which is 10 inches. Then I'm going to mark my waistline, which is 17 inches, right? No, 20 inches. So, and then I'm marking my hip point, which is 27 inches. So those are the lines that I need. I didn't even mark like my bust and my under bust because I don't need it, as the blouse is going to be a little bit free, right? So I just went ahead to mark those measurements on the other side, and I'm going to be ruling them into a straight line. Sorry, I don't know what happened to my camera. It was getting overexposed at this point, so bear with me, please. So I went ahead to mark my neckline, which is 3 inches, and my shoulder line, which is the standard 8 inches, and I connected it to the 3 inches by adding 1 inch shoulder slant. Then after that, I added 1 inch in front of the shoulder slant to make it 9 inches because my shoulder is 18 inches. Now I now dragged my armhole line, then I added my bust measurement, 1 inch for ease and 1 inch sewing allowance. I did the same on my waist and my hip line, and I'm going ahead to connect all lines together, right? Then I went ahead to mark the downside from the hip. I cut it straight. So whatever shape you want to do, you can do that. Then I went ahead to make my armhole curve, and then I marked extra 1 inch on the neckline, which is 3 inches and 4 inch depth, and I traced out a round neckline, and I'm going ahead to cut out my front blouse. So for the back is basically going to be almost the same, except that I want the back longer, so it's sort of a crop top like that. So let's do the back. So for the back, I just place the front in front on top of it, and I'm cutting the exact same thing except for the neck, which is just 1.5 inch low, and then the hem of the back as well. I just curved it and made it longer, and I made it sort of a curve. So you can do whatever works for you. By the time I was done, I went further to cut the sleeve. Now for the sleeve, is just a basic sleeve with, like, the hem was a little bit big and wide, and I'm going to add elastic there. So that's all my pattern for the blouse. So you can see this is the sleeve. So it's my basic sleeve, but I just extended it down straight, and then I'm going to be adding elastic at the hem side. So these are my panels, and that is it about the blouse. So see you in the part 2, which will be the sewing of this tutorial.